So what Jimmy Kimmel was referring to with me is one lead to an interview with Senator Lindsey Graham. So that lead said people out in Los Angeles are really upset, and Jimmy Kimmel taking on Cassidy and Graham. And what I find astounding is Cassidy came on because Jimmy Kimmel's came on his show because Jimmy Kimmel's son tragically was born with a heart defect, and great surgeons kept him alive, and he's got to have future heart operations. It reminds me a lot of what Bret Baier's son went through, and Bret wrote a book about that. So when Cassidy comes out as co-author of this plan, he calls out Cassidy. So what we did is have Graham and Cassidy on over the last 2 days to find out what this was actually about. And Jimmy Kimmel did not like that introduction to the Graham segment and decides to take a personal attack on me. Now, I went over this. I'm going to post my response on television. Essentially, he went on to say, see what?
No, we have the Kimmel cut if you want to hear it.
The whole thing?
We do.
Okay, let's hear it.
Particularly from our friends at Fox and Friends.
Sunday's politically charged Emmys may have been the lowest rated in history, but that's not stopping Hollywood elites like comedian Jimmy Kimmel for pushing their politics on the rest of the country. Watch.
Thanks, Brian. That was Brian Kilmeade. And the reason I found this comment to be particularly annoying is because this is a guy, Brian Kilmeade, who whenever I see him, kisses my ass like a little boy meeting Batman. Oh, he's such a fan, follows me on Twitter. He asked me to write a blurb for his book, which I did. He calls my agent looking for projects. He's dying to be a member of the Hollywood elite. The only reason he's not a member of the Hollywood elite is because nobody will hire him to be one. And, you know, the reason I'm talking about this is because my son had an open heart surgery and has to have 2 more. And because of that, I learned that there are kids with no insurance in the same situation. I don't get anything out of this, Brian, you phony little creep. Oh, I'll pound you when I see you. That will be my blurb for your next book. Brian Kilmeade is a phony little creep.
Okay, that was a couple of things need to be clarified. Obviously, very emotional about it. Jimmy Kimmel, definitely like him. Don't really know him personally, but I liked his show before it was popular. So when we were at American Idol, doing those, when it was the #1 show in the country, across the street at the Kodak Theater, I think, we would go and do American Idol and do recaps with the winners and runners-up. And the next day, across the street in Los Angeles, if you've ever been there, is Jimmy Kimmel's Theater. So we would call up and we would try to get do an interview behind the scenes. And I think for 3 years he did it. I also did Merv Griffin behind the scenes, did Fox Sports behind the scenes, because I try to make the most of my trips. So I thought he did a good job, even though we were struggling at first in the ratings. I said to myself, do they stick with the show? It's as good as any of the other shows. And, of course, he was having a war with Leno at the time. And he's very funny. And behind the scenes, he was kind of cool. And plus, we both have a sports background at Fox Sports. So he was on the show a lot promoting Fox Sports because he was playing kind of the funny guy role that they now have on that show on a regular basis on the pregame show. Now, in terms of, so I interviewed him 3 times, but not for the last 8 years. He also went on, I didn't hear it here, but evidently he referred to his agent. I called his agent or something like that. So, yeah, I knew his agent when I got out of college. So I thought to get to Jimmy Kimmel, since I wasn't getting a response from ABC, I called his agent, and his agent said, sure, and set it up. And then after the last 5, 6 years, we tried, have not been able to get on. I imagine it's the nature of partisan politics. But for him to go out and attack me personally and try to get into my personality and wants to be a Hollywood celebrity, I was out there for a while. I was doing sports, came back here, and after doing sports for 20 years, been at Fox. Why would I ever leave the #1 network in all of cable, not only news, and the #1 morning show in the country, through all these consequential events, to go out in Los Angeles and do entertainment? I mean, what point is that? No one will hire him? It's not even based in fact. So he didn't like that introduction to a segment, but I'm sure if he listened to the segment, he would have liked it. And if he did what I did, is spend this time reading everything I can, and then interviewing the people that made up the plan, that came up with the plan, and then I actually called Senator Lindsey Graham before he came on, just to get clarification before I went on television and radio to say, what exactly are you doing? How is this different? Is the president aboard? What's the last thing the White House said? Have you tried to get Democrats involved? What about the states that aren't getting in much money? Where's the pushback amongst Republicans? And where is this thing the weakest? See, I went and did research, and I know you can be a comedian and say whatever you want because you're a comedian, but you're obviously extremely bright and that you're actually passionate about this issue. Why don't you call Cassidy and yell at him? And then maybe Cassidy will make it seem, it would turn out to be worse than you thought, and you'll go say, I talked to him today, worse than I thought. I'm not telling you to be a journalist, but why don't you be thoroughly informed about a program before you say how bad it is and call a guy that spends his free time operating on people for free as a surgeon who is liked by everybody. The only guy I think is more popular than him or respected by him is maybe Senator Tim Scott. Liked by everybody in Capitol Hill, you basically call him a liar without ever talking to him. So why wouldn't we interview him, of course? Why wouldn't we get more information? It matters. And of course, healthcare is mind-numbingly boring and complicated, and I try to keep it above board. However, for him to go that crazy and attack me personally, so when I get up in the morning, all of a sudden, instead of just saying, Brian Kilmeade asked this question, he's terrible at his job, you have to attack me personally. And I guess this little, you said, this little man or something like that, I'm 5'10", 174. I'm sorry that's not good enough for you. But I just think if you look at the average chart of a male in America, I think I'm pretty much on target. So, not sure why that was necessary. Not sure why don't you just roll a clip and put it through. Not sure why the fact that I think you do a really good job of what you did and thought you were good before you were even as successful as you are is a bad thing. And I don't kiss your butt. I think you're good at your job. So if I say nice things, I'm not kissing up to you. So you're in the political fray now, and we'll see what happens from here.